You're 35, single, and scrolling through Instagram. Every engagement feels like a punch to the gut. Here's the brutal truth nobody tells you about being 35 and alone, and how to turn it around. There's a quiet moment that sneaks up on her, usually late at night. The phone glows in the dark. Instagram scrolls endlessly. Another engagement ring. Another pregnancy photo. Someone younger. Someone she remembers from college. And suddenly, the numbers start running in her mind. 35. No husband. No children. That friend who borrowed her notes freshman year just announced baby number 3. The fear doesn't explode. It tightens. It settles in the chest like a weight that won't move. A silent dread that whispers instead of screams. How did I end up here? No one prepares women for what actually happens when that realization hits. Not the surface sadness. The psychological aftershock. The internal earthquake that rearranges everything she thought she knew about her life. Being single at 25 feels expansive. Optional. Temporary. Being single at 35 feels diagnostic. Like a label. Every wedding invitation becomes a reminder. Every baby shower feels like emotional self-harm. She laughs it off in public. Calls herself the fun aunt. Makes jokes about freedom and disposable income. But underneath, there is a gnawing sense that everyone else received a guidebook to life, and hers is missing entire chapters. A woman once described it perfectly to me. She said it feels like standing on a train platform while everyone else boarded and left. The station is quiet now. The schedule board is blank. The trains don't even slow down anymore. That isn't simple loneliness. That's existential panic, dressed up in athleisure and poured into a wine glass. By 35, the pressure becomes relentless. Her mother brings up nice men in every conversation. Married friends attempt awkward setups with relatives no one wants. Her younger sister's pregnancy announcement lands like a blade. Society has an invisible timeline for women, and she can feel herself sliding past the point where people stop asking, not because it's resolved, but because it's uncomfortable. The biological clock isn't ticking anymore. It's shouting. Every cycle feels like evidence. Every social media announcement hits the gut. The calculations turn obsessive. If I meet someone now, date for a year, get engaged, married, try for a baby, I'll be 38. The window doesn't feel like it's closing. It feels like it's slamming shut while she's still inside the room. And this is where everything starts to fracture. Some women respond by collapsing their standards entirely. The man with no direction, no stability, multiple red flags. Suddenly he has potential. The married man who swears he'll leave? Tempting. The ex who betrayed her repeatedly? Maybe people change. Desperation rewrites logic. Others swing the opposite direction. They become impossibly selective. Every date is a job interview for husband and father. Every minor flaw is grounds for dismissal. Too short. Wrong career. Slightly off suggesting. Next. It isn't confidence. It's preemptive rejection. They reject before they can be rejected. Self-protection disguised as standards. Inside her, two forces collide constantly. One part wants to grab the next decent man and lock the door behind them. Force the timeline. Catch up. The other part would rather stay alone forever than feel like she settled. So she oscillates. Dating apps on Monday. Deleted by Thursday. Hopeful on Saturday night. Done with men by Sunday morning. The behavior becomes unpredictable. She pursues intensely, then disappears when interest is returned. Demands commitment, then panics when it's offered. She wants connection desperately and destroys it instinctively. Men feel the whiplash, but never understand the war happening inside her. And that's only the beginning. At this stage, her actions start contradicting her desires. She wants love, stability, partnership, yet everything she does quietly pushes it away. Not intentionally, instinctively. Survival mode doesn't think long-term. It reacts. There are two dominant coping styles that emerge, and both are defensive responses to fear. The first is emotional shutdown. The Ice Queen transformation. These women become highly functional, professionally impressive, emotionally unreachable. Their calendars are full. Their lives look polished. Dating becomes transactional. Chemistry is analyzed. Vulnerability is scheduled. Feelings are managed like liabilities. They don't get hurt because nothing gets in, but nothing meaningful gets built either. The second style is emotional overflow. The opposite extreme. These women arrive on dates already starving. They overshare timelines. They speak about marriage too soon. They interpret silence as abandonment. They text constantly, scan for reassurance, collapse emotionally at the smallest uncertainty. Their fear of being left becomes so intense that it creates the very outcome they dread. Both patterns come from the same source: terror of ending up alone. This is when the blaming phase almost always begins. Men are intimidated by strong women. Men only want younger women. Men can't handle emotional depth. These narratives are comforting because they protect the ego. They prevent harder questions, like why she spent her 20s and early 30s chasing emotionally unavailable men, why she dismissed stable partners as boring, why the same patterns keep repeating with different faces. Her friends often reinforce the delusion: you're too good for them. Men are trash. Never lower your standards. Rarely does anyone say the dangerous truth: you might be the common denominator. Family rarely helps. Her mother either applies pressure, "I had kids at your age," adding shame, or shields her completely: you're too good for everyone, preventing growth. Almost no one suggests examining patterns honestly, without blame or denial. What's rarely discussed is the hormonal impact of this period. Mid-30s hormonal shifts intensify emotion, urgency, and anxiety. This isn't just psychological. Biology is involved. The desire for a child isn't abstract, it's cellular. Every part of her body is urging action. That biological urgency clouds judgment more effectively than alcohol. She doesn't enter relationships from fullness anymore. She enters from deprivation. She isn't looking for a partner. She's looking for rescue. Someone to save her from time, from shame, from loneliness, from the feeling of being left behind. But healthy men don't want to be saviors. Predators do. Vulnerability without boundaries attracts exactly the wrong people. The pattern becomes predictable. She meets a decent man. Within weeks, she's imagining their future. Soon, she's accelerating intimacy, pushing for milestones, testing commitment. The pressure builds. He hesitates, reasonably. She interprets that hesitation as abandonment. Her anxiety spikes. She pushes harder. He withdraws. She confirms her belief that men always leave. Social comparison turns toxic. She can no longer feel genuine happiness for engaged or pregnant friends. Every announcement feels personal. Social media becomes unbearable. Happiness elsewhere feels like accusation. Bitterness quietly replaces hope. Some women cope by developing superiority narratives. "I could have married if I wanted." Her husband is basically a child. She sacrificed her career. Devaluing others becomes a defense against self-reflection. But it isolates her further. Fear of loneliness drives increasingly irrational decisions. Moving in too fast. Staying in unhealthy relationships. Choosing bad company over no company. Even considering pregnancy with unsuitable partners, because a baby feels like insurance against emptiness. Fear overrides logic. And beneath all of it lies the real issue: the inability to be alone. Many of these women never learn solitude. They move from parents to roommates to partners without ever developing a relationship with themselves. They don't know who they are without external validation. They feel empty because they never filled their own lives. The women who eventually form healthy relationships look different. They've built lives they enjoy alone. Friendships, interests, purpose. They don't need someone to complete them. They want someone to share with. Men sense this instantly. Want is attractive. Need is terrifying. Desperation repels quality. It attracts opportunists. Trying to compress years of bonding into months becomes common. Relationships speedrunning. Ultimatums issued to strangers. Deadlines demanded before trust exists. Love doesn't survive compression. Intimacy can't be microwaved. And society makes it worse. Women are criticized for being single and condemned for appearing desperate. Praised for independence and mocked for loneliness. There is no winning move. Only psychological exhaustion. Unresolved family dynamics fuel the fire. Absent fathers create impossible standards. Critical fathers create approval addiction. Unhappy mothers pass down unconscious loyalty to suffering. Many women unknowingly sabotage happiness out of allegiance to maternal pain. Social media sells an illusion of empowerment. Thriving at 35. But behind the jokes and wine memes is often deep isolation. Forced positivity is a mask that cracks under pressure. Sexual liberation becomes panic in disguise. Dating much younger men. Posting thirst traps. Chasing validation. But casual sex at 35 carries emotional weight. The body remembers. Each disconnected encounter deepens the emptiness. Humor becomes armor. Jokes about dying alone. becoming a cat lady, laughing to avoid grief. But humor doesn't heal. It numbs. The myth that younger men want older women as partners offers false hope. Desire for experience isn't desire for commitment. Confusing the two leads to disappointment. After years of performance, cool girl, independent queen, unbothered woman, authenticity erodes. No wonder connection feels impossible. She's forgotten how to be real. Unhealthy patterns solidify, chasing unavailable men, fixing broken ones, rejecting stability because it lacks drama. The cycle repeats endlessly until something breaks. And that breaking point is where real change either begins or never comes. Real healing begins only when denial ends. And denial is comfortable. Responsibility is not. That's why most people avoid it. But at this stage, avoiding it becomes more painful than facing it. The uncomfortable truth is this: patterns don't repeat by accident. They repeat because they're familiar, because they feel safe, even when they hurt. Until those patterns are examined honestly, nothing changes. Only the faces do. Many women at this point mistake self-reflection for self-blame. They fear that acknowledging their role means condemning themselves. It doesn't. It means reclaiming power. Responsibility isn't punishment. It's leverage. You can't change what you refuse to own. If you're 35 and alone, you didn't arrive here randomly. You made choices. Not evil choices. Human ones. Choices that made sense at the time. But choices have outcomes. And maturity means looking at outcomes without collapsing into shame. This is where real introspection starts. Reviewing every meaningful relationship and asking uncomfortable questions. Why did this end? What role did I play? What patterns keep repeating? Who am I consistently choosing, and why? Patterns reveal programming, and programming can be rewritten. For many, this process exposes an addiction to control, trying to manage love like a project plan. Timelines, checklists, deadlines. But love doesn't respond to pressure. Attraction doesn't negotiate. The tighter the grip, the faster it slips away. Letting go of control feels terrifying when independence has been armor for years. When you've built your entire life alone, allowing someone else's needs, preferences, and presence into your world feels like demolition. But intimacy requires permeability, not walls. This is also where grief surfaces. The grief for the life you thought you'd have, the marriage timeline, the children by a certain age, the version of yourself that never existed but feels lost anyway. That grief is real and must be processed. Suppressing it only hardens it into bitterness. You don't move forward by pretending you're unaffected. You move forward by mourning honestly, then releasing. Redefining success becomes essential. If fulfillment only exists inside traditional milestones, you'll always feel behind. Meaning isn't measured by boxes checked. Emotional wholeness matters more than optics. Some of the happiest people live lives that look nothing like the script. Dating at 35 isn't dating at 25. The rules change. The pool is smaller. Many quality men are married, divorced, or cautious. That doesn't mean hopeless. It means strategic realism. You're not shopping in the same store anymore. Biology also stops being theoretical. If children matter to you, time matters. That doesn't require panic. It requires clarity. Stop investing in uncertainty. Stop romanticizing men who don't know what they want. Hope is not a strategy. Self-worth must be rebuilt internally. Not from attention. Not from validation. Not from being chosen. A woman grounded in self-worth doesn't beg timelines. She doesn't perform readiness. She doesn't chase ambiguity. She becomes magnetic by being full, not frantic. That fullness comes from building a life that stands on its own. Purpose, community, joy not centered on romance. A relationship becomes an addition, not an escape hatch. Younger women watching this should take note. The men who wanted commitment at 25 are rarely still available at 35. The boring, stable guy often becomes the most valuable partner later. Options are shaped early by decisions made quietly. Acceptance is not surrender. It's alignment with reality. You're not 25. You don't need to be. Work with what is, not against what isn't. There is strength in clarity. Body acceptance is part of this reckoning. Your body tells a story. That story isn't shame. The men worth partnering with understand time. The ones demanding perpetual youth are revealing their immaturity. Emotional communication at this age is harder, not easier. Both people arrive with wounds, defenses, scar tissue. Connection requires patience most never practiced. Two complete lives don't merge quickly. They integrate slowly or not at all. Independence must soften into interdependence, not loss of self, expansion of it. The redefinition of femininity happens here. No longer competing with youth, no longer performing in vulnerability. A different kind of power emerges, self-knowledge, depth, presence. But unhealed wounds sabotage everything. Past betrayals get projected onto present situations. Silence becomes abandonment. Distance becomes threat. The nervous system reacts before logic can intervene, unless it's retrained. This is why shadow work isn't optional. Why therapy matters. Why honesty hurts before it heals. Until childhood patterns are addressed, adult relationships become reenactments, not connections. Stop romanticizing the past. That relationship didn't work for reasons. Those years weren't wasted. They were education. Treat them like it. The friend group matters. Circles that reinforce bitterness keep you stuck. Circles that shame you keep you small. Growth requires proximity to truth, not comfort. Family boundaries are necessary. Your parents' fears are not your destiny. Their disappointment is not your responsibility. Their expectations cannot run your life. Dating apps require maturity now. Clarity without desperation. Honesty without pressure. Confidence without performance. This balance can't be faked. It must be lived. Review your exes. Identify themes. Availability. Avoidance. Chaos. Stability, rejection. The pattern isn't them. It's the dynamic. And here's the hardest truth. Maybe you're not too good for everyone. Maybe your standards aren't high. They're impossible. Maybe growth is required. That realization isn't humiliation. It's freedom. Because when you stop seeing yourself as victim, you become creator again. You can change direction at any age, but only after you stop lying to yourself. And this is where the real transformation either begins, or the cycle quietly continues. The final truth is this: being 35 and alone isn't tragedy, unless you make it one. It's a crossroads, a reckoning, a chance to rewrite your story. Women who treat 35 as a catalyst for growth thrive. They either find love, with themselves, with another, or both. Those who collapse into victimhood retreat into wine, cats, and memes. The choice is yours. Completion starts internally. Stop searching for someone to fill emptiness. Build your life fully. Fill it with purpose, passion, and joy. Relationships should add to this life, not rescue it. Internal wholeness attracts wholeness. Desperation repels, abundance magnetizes. Emotional vampires can smell need. They avoid nothingness, but they run from fullness. Shadow work is non-negotiable. Ask yourself, why do I want a partner? To avoid loneliness? To prove worth? To compete? To please others? Until you know your why, you will attract the wrong energy. Consciously or unconsciously, patterns repeat. Stop performing readiness for relationships. Stop pretending you're healed while bleeding inside. Stop faking confidence. The friend circle matters. Toxic, bitter, or envious friends reinforce stagnation. Seek growth-focused, truth-telling, supportive friends. They will challenge, not enable, your evolution. Family boundaries are crucial. Your mother's anxiety about grandchildren isn't your emergency. Your father's disappointment isn't your fault. Siblings' opinions are not your roadmap. Set limits, or their fears will become your decisions. Dating at 35 requires strategy. Be clear without desperation. Be honest without scaring others. Avoid pretending you're 25. Play to your strengths. Experience, emotional depth, financial stability, clarity. Review your past relationships. Look for patterns. Are you choosing the unavailable? Are you repeating the same mistakes? Are you ending things in familiar ways? Education lives in those patterns, not shame. Stop romanticizing the past. That perfect ex didn't get away. It didn't work because of reasons, lessons you now own. Those years weren't wasted. They were preparation. Your body tells a story. Own it. Respect it. Embrace your experience. Men who matter see it as wisdom, not flaw. Those demanding perpetual youth aren't worth your time. Vulnerability balance is delicate. Share enough to connect, not to trauma dump. Be open about partnership goals, not desperate for rescue. Emotional communication requires practice at 35, more than at 25. Scar tissue and life experience make it complex, but not impossible. Integration is slow. Two established lives merging requires patience. Independence must soften into interdependence without losing self. Walls must become bridges. The power lies in clarity, honesty, and acceptance. Accept that the perfect timeline may never exist. Accept that biological clocks tick differently. Accept that fulfillment comes in many forms. Emotional wholeness counts more than social boxes. Younger women should learn from this. Choices in your 20s shape options later. The men who wanted commitment at 25 may not be available at 35. Choices matter. Acceptance is power. Growth is freedom. Fulfillment is not contingent on rescue, romantic validation, or checking boxes. Build your life fully. Purpose, hobbies, community, joy. Then relationships become additions, not lifelines. The magnetic versus desperate distinction is critical. Desperate women drain energy, seek rescue, chase. Magnetic women generate energy, seek nothing, attract naturally. Internal work is mandatory. Face your feelings. Heal wounds. Build life. Become someone you would choose. Stop waiting for fairy tale rescue. Stop performing readiness. Stop seeking validation. When you stop needing it, often it appears. Not always. Sometimes not at all. And that's okay. Your life can be beautiful regardless. The paradox of 35. The moment you stop begging, stop performing, stop fearing, you begin attracting what matters. Completeness, not need. Power, not panic. Authenticity, not performance. Your story isn't written yet. 35 is young enough to change, old enough to know better. Use that wisdom. Do the work. Stop repeating old patterns. Heal wounds. Build the life you deserve. And now, a question for you. If you're 35 and single, what patterns do you notice repeating? If you found love later in life, what changed? If you're younger, what lessons are you learning early? Drop your thoughts below. Let's have an honest conversation. The silence keeps women stuck. The shame keeps them suffering. Let's break both. Because 35 isn't the end. It's a beginning.